back to another LinuxGameCast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, Trine 3 exits beta. We'll give you our perspective. Lab Zero adds 3 new characters to their Indivisible Indiegogo campaign for free. Unlike Skullgirls, those ladies were 150,000 wet stinkies a pop.
Tesla wants Unreal programmers. Is Elon Musk building facing worlds in orbit? And AMD has some special new drivers. That's really, really cute.
Rocket League is almost here. Civic ran his Decoder 9000 on the dev's AMA. Wine lets out a howling shriek. No more buffer underruns for you.
I'm Vince Stone here at LGC Actual, switching the bits every week with this nightmare fuel, joined by Tame Canadian podcaster Master
Schwang,
Quang, Walrus.
Master Schwing,
According to Portugal, that voice you're hearing is Pedro as Captain
Sup,
Eraser
bitches?
himself, and together with Chat Realm Dynamic, joining us live around 9:30 Eastern Standard Moon Time. We do form that little special bit of a cocaine Voltron. Before we get started, we'd like to see what's going on in each other's life organs. I think I'm going to start off this week because after the show, I guess technically it was Sunday, Jordan and I record a Cocaine Voltron Theater 3000 for Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. And I just happened to open up the Steams, and lo and mothering behold, I got my second Steam survey in 3 years.
At which point I'm like, oh shit, take a picture!
I did. Got a picture, got a proof. It's in Chat Realm Static on LinuxGameCast.com. You can check that business.
And then you quit it.
Yeah. Thought about it. I was, like, I was talking to J-Man, and I was like, yeah, whatever, because he was seeing my screen, and I was like, I clicked no, and he was like, yeah. Anyway, fill that out. That was a bit of brilliant sauce. What's up, J-Baby?
Oh, I crushed my fingers this week. That's the one event of note that occurred. Also ordered a 750 Ti for the Steam box, so hopefully that'll be in this week, and I can start testing some games on there.
All right.
Yeah. My Steam box is now running SteamOS proper because I had to. Someone in the podcast had to run SteamOS proper because it's coming out on the 10th. It's not very far away. And I was coming home on Tuesday. It was actually Tuesday of all. And I saw that the local hardware store was having a clearance sale. So I bought this Logitech F310 on the cheap. It was like 50% off, so 15 euros. If I had paid full price for this, I would have been very, very pissed because this fucking D-pad right here, it's horrible. It's the worst D-pad I've ever laid my fingers on. But I also came to the realization that some Steam games claim full controller support, and I had sort of given them the benefit of the doubt because I had the PS2 DualShock and the NVIDIA Shield controller, and those weren't exactly supported, but this motherfucker is. It really is. But they just refuse to.
You know, something that really doesn't want the D-pad anymore is a horse because he has nipples.
A horse does have nipples, but he also has an interesting new form factor that will excite and titillate you. It's our Steamworks
Update on the week. So yes, let's have our moment of Nen. Because Zotac announces the Nen Steam machine supporting Skylake, Intel CPUs, and the NVIDIA GTX 960 with 4 HDMI 2.0 ports in the back.
Because reasons,
Why?
son. Because reasons.
I don't fucking know.
because you got to drive 4 separate TVs for your SteamOS. I mean, that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, but yeah, it will be available. It has a Core i5 6400T, which comes with a base clock of 2.2 gigahertz, and it turbos up to 2.8. It has 8 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte hard drive. You can upgrade the RAM to like 16 gigs. That's the only upgrade option you get out of the box.
You can also throw an M.2 SATA or an M.2 SSD.
It does have an extra M.2 slot.
And I mean, if you look at the specs, I mean, for supposedly what they're charging for this, about $1,000. That's that's what you would pay for this system. Like if you just built it yourself.
You don't think it has more to do with the form factor or anything like that?
Well, I mean, sure. Actually. There's a bit of a markup due to the form factor, but I actually went to the parts store, built out an equivalent system, and I think like the difference is maybe only $100. So
Yeah, it's still $100 for... Okay, granted, it is very close to the console form factor that people like on their living rooms. But yeah, it's the form factor in this one specifically introduces a hell of a premium. Because if you take a look at the Alienware Steam Machine and its base configuration, the $450 one, you can't really buy a $450 PC with those specs, because the GTX, the custom NVIDIA that they have on the Alienware one, it's like a GTX 860M.
The 850M, I think it is, or it might have been
860M. It's slightly weaker than the 750 Ti, but yeah, it's about on par. So, and if you were to build one with that i3 4130 or 4230, I can't remember exactly, but yeah, it will always go closer to around $500 instead of the $450 that they're selling it, and you still get the form factor, which is a very, very tiny console. This one,
still, I mean, the price point for the Steam machines is always going to be one of these pain points for a lot of console buyers, just because you can get an Xbox or a PlayStation 4 for like $300 now. You could argue the longevity of the system, but it's still a pretty hefty pill to swallow at like first purchase for like a mid-range computer that you could get for like $100 less.
That's definitely one of the things I'm thinking about. Because a lot of people are still, it's a tough sell for a console. Would you like to buy this console? It's only $666. I mean, expensive when I do handstands. As opposed to, it's the whole marketing thing, because we're trying to get people to realize it's supposed to be a console. It's not supposed to be a HTC PC, but almost, baby.
Almost, yes. You may remember
close, but so far away.
You may remember that when the some of the Steam machines went on pre-order, you would get a key for Rocket League and some other game that I already have.
Portal 2,
isn't it?
Portal 2, yes, exactly. Now, the Psyonix guys, the developers behind Rocket League, did a little AMA on Reddit, and someone asked him, I know you're probably annoyed by questions like this, and I'm sorry, but do you know when the expected release for Linux/SteamOS version is? And the developer said, this is almost ready? I don't have an exact date.
Hair Volunteer ran it through his bullshit detector. Sibek, who's currently in Chat Realm Static, or Chat Realm Dynamic right now, is all about, it's ready. It's just waiting for November 10th. Which, I mean, sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I'm definitely curious as to who ported it, because it's an Unreal Engine 3 game, and it mixes sports ball and racing. So I'm vibrating with joy and pleasure. And I
want to get my hands on it too, and I actually sent them an email inquiring about as to who.
Pedro, they are too busy rolling in money to get back to emails right now.
Yeah. And if we could possibly get it earlier, but they didn't reply.
Well, booga.
It's gone. Motherfucker's gone.
Then tell us about Nosage.
Right. Yekion, I don't know how you want to say that. Yekion Jason is a satirical web serial about a wannabe serial killer who never seriously kills anyone. Intentionally wacky twist. It was early access software. Now, what did you get if you picked this up? Unfortunately, this doesn't have the price on it, but it was originally, I believe, $9.99.
Oh no, you can still read the review.
The review's down here.
That one negative review. There it is. It's a TXT file. You get a fucking TXT file.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, we're talking about this is.
No one vets the early access process.
This is the thing, man. I mean, you can actually sell your mothering ID on Greenlight without having anything but a text document. And I was like, Jordan, write a spec file for Brick Simulator. We'll get that on there immediately.
Which, by the way, only comes distributed as an RPM. Sorry, Debian users.
Yeah, it's going to be brilliant. But I mean, this is absolute proof that anything can slip into Greenlight, and Honey Steam don't give a damn. Until the masses pick it up. I mean, this showed up on our Steam, then, the Reddit train got on it, then Steve went, oh, our bad. And I initially, I need to say this because it's like, yeah, Steam doesn't mind, as long as they get a cut of that, what is it, £100 to get in?
$100 to get on Greenlight.
You know, so I'm research. I know it goes against all principles of Linux Gamecast Weekly. I was doing some research, and turns out TIL on this moment, you know, all proceeds from the submission fees are donated to Child's Play. So
interesting. Yeah. Good on them, I guess. But at the same time, it's still letting all crap like this in the early access store. I mean, me and friends made a student film about this exact premise in high school. And if I knew that I could throw that shit on Greenlight and make money for it,
no, Jordan,
motherfucker, I wouldn't be here.
You did not. You actually made a film. This guy's just like theorizing about making.
This guy's just had an idea. I think it was 13 episodes that he was supposedly going to do. And if you bought into the old early access for a film, or a web series, as they called them, you would get a TXT file describing exactly what each episode would have.
Well, it's just a stone's throw away from we're going to have Steam original programming. It's just going to be like 90 hours straight of PewDiePie.
Let's talk about some nerd deathmatch.
Yeah, this is Spellsworn. It's from Frog Song Studios, and basically, if you played Magic the Gathering Battlegrounds,
oh shit! Wait, what's that?
It's an Unreal Engine 4 game. Oh, and actually, if you scroll down to the system requirements, they actually list specific versions of Mesa that they recommend using for this game. That's a little mental. We don't really see too many games actually recommend Mesa drivers, so that is pretty nifty. But it's basically like Magic the Gathering Battlegrounds. You basically control your dudes in this sort of turn-based strategy type thing. Kill each other. Whoever wins gets the win. It's in early access. I mean, it's on sale now. It's priced to sell for $5. So if you like Magic the Gathering Battlegrounds, it's probably might be up your alley. But
the thing with Magic the Gathering Battlegrounds the game had some pretty stupid mechanics that I just couldn't wrap my head around. If this doesn't have those stupid-ass mechanics, and judging by the gameplay trailers and the YouTube videos that I saw, it doesn't. So I could totally get behind that.
But how else are you going to translate a card game to an action game, Pedro? There's just no other way than having like really awkward positioning and turning your game into Mega Man Battle Network. But anyways, but you know, speaking of games that recommend Mesa, I sit corrected because there is another game that just came out that recommends Mesa in their Steam Steam specs. This is Renowned Explorers International Society. This is a hex crawl type game where it's a roguelike. Things are semi-procedurally generated. We're actually going to throw some chairs at this in the review segment later on, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. But it's on. Is it on sale right now?
No, it is 19.99 wet stinky caches.
Yeah, it's a bit pricey, but we'll get into that a little bit more. But seriously though, check out the comprehensive system requirements.
Right.
Oh yeah, those graphics options. Yep.
Good on them for that. I mean, more information is better. So you get some awesome points for that. Good on you. But finally, it's time to enter the third dimension.
Trine 3, and I can already hear you at home. But try speed on the Linux. Well, it's finally out of beta, Brad. And when it is out of beta, they are going to free new level. Which is not saying much, but we'll address that later on. SteamOS Linux support weekend sale. You can currently pick up, I think we picked up the 3-pack for, $29.99 wet stinky caches?
Yeah. It's about $10.
Yeah, you get the full business at $10.99, regularly $21 wet stinkies. What is it? You never heard of it? Well, you got to know what Trine is. If you've been gaming on Linux for any amount of time, the Artifacts of Power, it's back. The dick that is known as the Trine, because it is kind of a dick. It's a sequel
dick
to Trine and Trine 2. I don't know if that's grammatically correct, but reunite with 3 heroes in an all-new adventure now for the first time in full 3D. And this is going to be brilliant.
With 0 depth perception. Well, it's great. I love it.
Wait a minute, Brad. Here's what I want to say. Because, we didn't touch it because it was in beta. Like, we're just going to wait on this. And it finally launched, and we'd heard all the horrible, and I was like, oh, it's impossible to control, and I was like, oh, it can't be that, oh, okay, it's that bad.
Ben and I were fucking around with the multiplayer. That is an experience, let me tell you.
That's a true experience, but you gotta look forward to this, because we do this Trine Again series for our Patreons, and I mean, it comes out for free a week later, so you don't have to worry. I mean, we're not holding anything hostage for anyone. And
it's just early access, bro.
I genuinely believe that this will add a new dimension to our Trine Again series, but unfortunately, that dimension will be to place your bets on who rage quits out of the level first.
How
you know what?
We're also going to have an over-under on how many controllers or keyboards we've snapped, so...
Anyway, I did try the game, and 3D Death Procession...
Death Procession. All right, show title. Somebody bang that.
Yeah.
Depth perception, issues aside, it runs at 60 plus FERPs on the 970 with the AMD processor, with everything on 11 at 1080p, so good on them for that.
I don't know. I mean, over here on this side, I mean, it's running everywhere. I'm kind of further in the game, but I mean, there's some scenes it'll go from 24, but sometimes it'll be sitting at 80. We should make note, J-Man and I, actually Jordan pointed this out, it kind of escaped me. No 4K support still. Still?
Yep.
What?
No camera.
Yeah, you got 2K,
either,
and that's
which is the biggest crime. You don't even get 2K. I got like 1920 by 1200.
Yeah, there's some janky resolution. But speaking of Trine Again, which is made available by our Patreons.
Oh, we're doing that now? Whoa, we have our Patreon that you can go to, patreon.com/LinuxGameCast. Oh my god, we're at 60 patrons! Steve B, BKM-SC, Ryan P, and Kenneth D have joined the ranks of the awesomeness that is our Patreon crew. And we're fairly close, almost there. Maybe another $2.11 away from doing Left 4 Brad 2, where we take any of the $1 or higher donors and we play some Left 4 Dead with them. It's going to be
we're going to join in.
Good
Actually, earlier this week, we did a test run, Strider and I did. And it looks like it's going to be pretty smooth going, and it's going to be the three of us. You get to join in the game. Empty's already signed up. Of course, Strider, Sandy's going to be in there, or anyone that wants to play the home game and do that business. But on top of that, I mean, we were $30, $20-something away from a new show, Pedro.
Yes, it's the LGC Weekly Daily Wednesdays. Seriously, we need to come up with a better naming system for this.
That is the best name.
Fine.
You will not question it.
But yeah, we will do a midweek show where we will talk about all things Linux or tangentially related to Linux. Maybe some gaming, maybe not some gaming.
Tentacles.
Who knows?
I mean, yeah.
Jurassic Park, Jeff, all sorts of stuff.
I mean, Pepperidge Farm remembers. Okay.
Obey the hypnobusi.
So check out patreon.com/LinuxGameCast.
5 cents a show, baby.
Stuff. 5 cents a show. All we care about is those numbers. You can give us a pits and we don't care, but as long as our Patreon count goes up, it's good stuff. That's all we care about. Coming up next, AMD goes on their period. What? Find out.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the news. And well, in true LGC fashion, we would start the news segment with some drivers. We're sort of doing that. Jordan, care to elaborate?
Okay, so we talked last week about NVIDIA's new special sauce drivers, and they're coming with a new Catalyst Control Center. Catalyst Control Center is dead. Yes, this is from Brad Shakos. God damn it, Brad.
It's Brad.
you just can't escape the Brad. It's like Agent Smith. No, but Catalyst Control Center is dead. Long live Catalyst Control Center. They have this new one now called Crimson. It's built on Qt, which means that it's cross-platform, which is great, except this doesn't actually impact the actual drivers themselves, which push the hardware, which don't really work that well under Linux. But yeah, and that's really what I have to say about this is, sure, it's great that you have some new software that doesn't look like someone took a nail to their fucking testicles and then decided to hash out a graphical interface. But at the same time, all this functionality you're exposing doesn't exist in the Linux driver stack. It doesn't.
Well,
what's the point?
Unlike Ryan Shroud over at the PC Pairs, I know what a Qt is. The Qt. It's kind of funny what I was.
Ooh, word.
Yeah, they were talking about that early in there. You know, it's a widget set, and that's been around for KDE for billions of years ago, and they used to have licensing issues.
Now it runs on everything. So,
what I'm curious about, what I didn't know, I did learn from PC Pairs that even the Catalyst Control Center on the Windows took like 7 seconds to load on an SSD, and I think P-Man kind of confirmed that from his experiences.
Yeah, for my experience with the calculator all those years ago, well, I haven't even had this PC for like a year or so.
Monday.
But yeah, it took a long fucking time to load, and the functionality wasn't all that good. But there is some interesting bits. This article didn't specifically say anything about Linux, but Orn, or should I say Lord Marshal Commander Thunderdick, was
I think we should just call him the
bear.
Master.
Yeah, but yeah, Orn actually found Roy Taylor. You may remember him as AMD Roy on Twitter. Now he's just using his personal account, which is Roy_Techwood. And he posted the bit of news that the Radeon software Crimson was coming out, and Orn asked him, "So Roy, Crimson, is it coming to Linux?" And he says yes. So I don't know,
but you still need those GIMP help files, though. Otherwise, the drivers
you definitely got to put that business in there. What I want to know, even using Qt, I mean, this is supposedly going to bring things. You do your overclocking, and it'll have per game profiles, kind of like Carlos did. Basically, everything that NVIDIA has had on Linux for the past 5 years, you'll finally be able to get, and it'll work half-assed 20% of the time. But even using Qt, even though that not AMD Roy has said, yeah, it's coming to Linux, I still, in my cold black heart, believe that they will come up with some fuckery to go, well, we can't, we can't bring this to Linux.
It's because those GIMP help files are too new. You just can't use them.
Yeah,
but up next,
you can't. But up next, you smell that? That's the shovelware coming down the pipe, because the Asset Store birthday bonanza for the Unity engine is here, and you have 6 days left from the time of recording to get your hands on some
get
asset
Demon Hunter
packs.
female for a
I know. I like how. Yeah, it's front page, big boob chick. Buy that for $11.60. There's
Yeah, so it's the Unity Asset Store is having a bit of a sale to celebrate their birthday, as it were, and you can get all those assets, all those asset packs, and all those what have you particle effects. There was a pack of particle effects that I was looking at earlier. The usual price is $250. It's on sale for $150, and they don't look so good. But hey, what will you do?
you can get get Ultra FPS, which lets you slap together a first-person shooter game without any real effort.
And remember, kids, you got to remember this. I mean, if you get something like that, say like Unit Z, you just download that, put it on Greenlight, get that done, and release it as a game, right?
Yeah, there have already three games that did that actually got through Greenlight. But yeah, the only thing I see coming out of this is tons of shovelware to the Steam client.
Speaking of Unit Z, the entire resource pack for that on sale, 50% off. How about that? But it's time to get mad.
Job losses at Just Cause 3 developer Avalanche Studios. And you're like, what the fuck, man? No one cares about this. But you gotta remember, boys and girls, these are the creators of Mad Max, and the developers have said on the Twitters, yes, this is coming to the Linux.
Supposedly.
There's no supposedly. There's from the actual Twitter account. They're like, yeah, it's coming to Linux. We don't know if I can win. #Witcher3.
Carmageddon also said that they would have a Linux version.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like saying Jesus is coming back, son. We're not necessarily in that fucking camp now, are we? But, no, around 24 staff have been let go from Just Cause 3 and Mad Max developers, Avalanche Studios, and everyone's like, oh my god, how's this going to affect the Linux port and all that? It's not. I mean, this is not good.
They probably outsourced it too to like Flibit or that other guy.
Well, even that. I mean, you got to worry about their finances to finance that. But
that's true.
This is absolutely a common practice for small studios transitioning between two big projects, because they're going from like big project, like you guys are awesome. You got certain skill sets. We can't really use you on this, but even they have said we plan on hiring people back as quick as we can when we need them.
Temporary layoffs. It's good stuff.
Well, it's a brilliant way to, prevent super high cost and all that business and crazy burn rates. And I honestly think other studios might be able to learn a thing or two from them. Speaking of that, Lab Zero's Indivisible feature characters from Shovel Knight, Guacamelee, and more. This comes from Polygon.com. You can always find this Nightmare Fuel in our show notes at LinuxGameCast.com. It's always going to be there. Annie from Skullgirls, Calabretto from Battle Chasers, the Drifter from Hyperlight Drifter, One from Guacamelee, great game on Linux, pick it up. Lee from Curses, Shovel Knight, from Shovel Knight and
Really, I thought it was from Heroes of Nor.
I'm just reading it off the damn page, man. Anyway, they're seeking $1.5 million in crowdfunding to help develop Indivisible. Do they get a link to the Indiegogo?
Well, I mean, you can go back on LinuxGameCast.com, click on our shows button, and you can go find the actual episode where we talked about this. But I mean, DLC characters are nice and all, but I mean,
they're currently at 731,000.
Yeah, they're at 49%. They need to at least get to.
They got to get to 1.5 to. They got to get to 1.5.
Yeah, to
million.
get another 3.5 mil.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but there was a bit of an extension. I read today on Google Plus, according to Civic, if I'm not mistaken. Which, if they get to 900,000, they get an extension for.
This is going to be sad.
Yeah. They get an extension for like a month or something. I don't know. But yeah, if they get to $900,000, which they're currently sitting at 731,000, so I don't see that happening.
7 days left. Here's kind of what I want to say about it. I mean, these are the same lot, I know, I mean, like, oh, you're hating on them because Skullgirls. Really, I'm not. I would be doing everyone a disservice if I didn't tell you what went through my brain organ, because like, oh, are we getting all this for free? It better be for free. But then that kind of struck me as odd, because to add one additional character to Skullgirls, they needed 150,000 wet, stinky caches. That's a true thing. 1.5 million, that's kind of a hard sell when you got games like Dust and Elysian Tale, Distance, Axiom Verge were all created for a fraction of that. And yes, making games costs more than people realize. But 3.5 mil total for that. Yeah, but I fully believe in my non-existent heart of hearts that it would cost Lab Zero that much to produce this title, if you know what I'm saying. See the previous story about thinning out the herd. But all said, I absolutely hope they make their goal. I do. Since we would never wish ill on a game studio other than Stainless Games, maker of Carmageddon, may they die.
And Larian. The makers of Divinity, Original Sin.
And Virtual Programming, the people who just ruined Linux ports in general. What I was going to say is I just don't think that a bunch of DLC characters are going to encourage people to actually buy into this game. Oh my god, I can play Shovel Knight in a turn-based RPG. That's brilliant.
I'm not saying it kind of relates to desperation, but...
it doesn't seem like that great an idea. I mean, maybe after the fact, but this is not something that is going to push.
You know what would have sold me on this? What would have sold me on this? And a lot of people have hit me up on G+ when I posted about this.
Yep.
If this was a brawler.
Yeah.
Yes.
It
kind of like
instead, it's like
Streets of Rage 2. Streets of
RPG.
Rage 2. Think that. Yeah. And I would give them some money for that. We need something like that, don't we?
Yeah. Or like a Golden Axe thing with unique characters. That would be neat.
Yeah.
Play fucking Golden Axe Shovel Knight. I'd love that shit. But it's time to go into space. Yeah. This is Tesla Motors wants Unreal Engine artists. Now, you might ask yourself, why the hell would a car company want people to do art in a game engine? Well, we talked about a bit of this back when Unengine released their latest engine. Lots of companies use game engines for simulation because, they have good physics libraries. It's a well-known, well-documented toolkit that you can get people who don't necessarily have scientific backgrounds to, write your simulations for you. So, and I don't know if I want to go full tinfoil hat on this.
Wait a minute. Wait. Accustomed to going above and can we go space above and beyond?
Not unless you're Buzz Lightyear, it's not possible.
Aww.
But I'm curious though. Are they maybe gonna go for some VR test drive shit? It's like, oh, want to buy a Tesla? Feel what it's like with your Logitech driving wheel and blah blah blah. That could
That
be
is
interesting.
one of the things they ask when it comes to the responsibilities. They say working with VR/AR equipment, so probably, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I brought up that point. But, if this is up your alley and you want to pursue this, keep in mind, Tesla is notorious for making you work long hours and not paying you all that much money, so...
And hey, if you don't make it at Tesla, you'll always wind up at Apple.
It's true, and you can work on their busted open
we're not trying to slowly sneak car news in so LinuxGameCast can become a car show. No. Unreal Engine.
Linux Top Gear Cast.
Right. It's going to be brilliant like that, but on that bombshell.
Yes. And Paradigm, yes, Epic has a new shooter coming out. Another new shooter. This is, of course, built on the Unreal Engine 4 because, Epic is putting all their time and effort into creating an engine, and then they're just going to turn around and use Unity to produce their new shooter. But we don't know much about it, aside from the fact that if you register on their site, you can get free unlocks when the game comes out. They've released one character for this game, and they're slowly trickling out the information. Currently, you got the dual-wielding pistol dude.
It's kind of a douchebag. He looks a lot like Nathan Drake.
But my thing is, Epic can put out a solid shooter. They have Unreal Tournament. That's great. Storm United, also a shooter. Not that great. Built on Unreal Engine. Why don't you make a game that's not a shooter, like a strategy game or an RPG or an action game that shows off the flexibility of your
one we
it kind of boils down to what you know. I mean, after the release of Doom 3, even Carmack said, he's like, our next game, we're going to build something without guns. Rage!
Spellsworn, we talked about earlier, is not a shooter, and it works on the Unreal.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
That is true.
ID was a bad example. ID only releases tech demos for their game engine that they can I'm sorry.
It's true, but now that Carmack doesn't exist anymore. No, he exists.
I mean, he works for Facebook now. So
this does look kind of neat. I mean, get in there. I mean, it's priced to sell. It's free, and maybe we'll get it on the beta. It's going to be kind of neat regardless because it's more Unreal Engine 4 sauce in your face.
It looks like a squad-based shooter at Team Fortress 2. Yeah. So there's that.
But then again, if you're setting out to compete against Team Fortress 2, you're fighting a losing battle. But hey, can you hear it whine?
Yeah, whine about it some more, Pedro. Why don't you?
This is the Wine Project, and they have released a new commit which introduces PulseAudio support without needing the extra Wine Pulse package. Yes, after, 6 years?
Listen, Brad, listen. Also works, and Wine has been using also, which is fine. But we gotta admit, I mean, Pulse is a janky mess, but it has far better support. We use Pulse, we have multiple DACs, mixers, and just a nightmare fuel of cables to pull this off, that's what we're doing right now. But it has better support for basically everything. And we also have Pavu control, which puts Windows to shame, doesn't it, son?
Oh my god, yeah. What kind of sick, twisted moon reality do we live in where audio configuration on Linux is much more easier and convenient than audio configuration under Windows? I can actually just say, audio come out of these syncs for these specific applications under Linux. No, you can't do that under Windows. I tried. Expecting, that paid commercial operating system to have basic functionality like that. Nope.
The very best thing to come out of this is the fact that you don't have to use the ALSA to PulseAudio plugin anymore, which means you don't get any more buffer underruns.
Yes.
Which is kind of amazing. Finally. I mean,
you're still going to get that on Unity 4 games.
Yeah, though, I mean, no buffer underruns, but unless you're completely on USB, it's just going to be out of sync, and you're going to have to learn to deal with it. But
Pedro's killing distributions again. How about that?
No, I'm not. For once,
yes,
it's not
you
my
are.
fault.
It's your fault, Pedro.
I'm not, because Ozone is dead, and Corora is getting a gaming edition as a result of that. So yeah, you may have heard of Ozone OS.
Ozone
and if you
Dragster,
I don't blame you.
Mm-hmm.
It was an OS that was being developed based on Fedora by the creators of the Numix theme. So if you don't know what the Numix theme is, I don't blame you either. But yeah, the devs behind it kind of started an OS. It was very short-lived. It had like one beta release, and then they went for like 5 months.
Wait a minute, Pedro. I mean, is this one of those bullshit gaming edition distro spins?
We don't know yet, because it hasn't happened yet. They kind of nuked Ozone OS. They said, yeah, we're not going forward with it. In fact, the TLDR on their website says, Ozone is merging into Corora. You might recognize that as a distribution I am currently running.
So it's good.
Atom, which is the name of their beta thing, is being dropped, but we'll be working on the theme suite to hopefully make it a default in the future. I'm sure you have a bazillion questions, and they're doing a bit of a gaming edition for Corora.
So
now,
one thing that I think stands out to me personally is I use stock Fedora, and I don't run into half the issues that you do on Corora when it comes to games. So
yeah,
is this really is this really going to buy us anything?
Hang on a minute, Jordan. How many times how many times has Steam crashed today?
9.
Yeah. Right. Then again, Steam hasn't crashed for me in like a year. But then again,
then again, actual games run on this and don't have random graphical issues. So a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. So
we'll get to that in the review. But I've been using Corora since Corora 19 came out, and I never really needed a gaming edition for me to do my gaming on. Still, I am curious to see what it is that sets this gaming edition apart from regular Corora or Fedora, as it were, assuming it comes to fruition, and whether or not I can keep justifying the delay between versions when compared to regular Fedora.
Yeah, I don't need the sparkly cowboy boots and the lacquer hairdo. I mean, if you run a distro, just run the stock distro. Like, I know it's like, well, this is the KDE spin, this is the cinnamon spin. Fuck all that noise. Look, you can give me Hannah Montana Linux. Tell me if I'm right, J-Man, and I'm going to pull that shit apart and stick back the bits that I need to work, and it's going to fucking work, son.
Yeah, because it's Linux. It's all modular. It's You plug it out, you plug it back in. It's all good. But up next, we root around Ven's nether regions, and we try and find treasure. I wonder what we'll find.
With a special disclosure for our EU partners.
We are throwing chairs at renowned explorers. Miscellaneous subtitle. No, it's International Society. And it is a game by Abbey Games, developed on the Abbey Core engine, which is a custom in-house engine developed by these guys. You can pick it up for around 20 of your local currency, whatever that may be. And what is it? Ever wanted to lead legendary treasure hunts into pyramids and exotic jungles? Get dysentery and die? Then pick out your team out of 20 unique characters and choose your destination in a 19th century world. Seduce giant gorillas, humiliate cultists, or choose to fight. You decide on every step of your adventures. The devs did send us keys for this, and this is not affiliated at all with the Super Adventure Club, FYI. So don't sue us. Thanks. Okay, thanks, bye. We also have the CHAIRQUISITION. Yeah, let's go into that ancient temple and see if we can get 1 chair for crap, 2 chairs for meh, 3 chairs for pretty good, 4 chairs for shut up and take my monies, and maybe in the varying continents of mix with the working, shiny sounds, controls, and fun, we will find our treasure, or we'll die horribly. Either way, let's kick this off. Then, did the game make with the working?
Oh, here in Finland, how did it make with the working on the Ubuntu 1404 LTS? 8150 octo-core, 4K displayed, 980 powered box of the business. Well, it's a bunch of lies. Step one wasn't so good. This is basically step 1 if you're audio listening. I kind of had to run to the form organ and dig around in the bug area, only to find the well-known bug posted by one of the developers, and it wasn't pinned, so much searching was needed. And I said, well, you need to find the INI file, and the instructions like, it's in the wrong place, so you use a little bit of your own brain sauce, and figured that out. Why did I have to figure that out? Because when I first started it, it looked like this. Right. It tried to launch at 4K when I was running at 1080p because I was getting ready to record it. So yeah, one little tiny corner of the screen, man, one little 1080p in my 4K goodness. So, I just said, fuck it. I switched back to 4K 2160, and try to play the damn game. Yeah, no dice, Brad, no dice. Menus were borked, and I could not select my crew. But fortunately, I was able to deconstruct the message that they were trying to convey to me of how to get it working, and I went to the Steam directory and found the INI file located where it was supposed to be, changed it, and I can still only play it in windowed mode. And make of that what you will. So for the working, I'm going to get this 2 chairs, because if step 1 is to start digging around for an INI file, and they're like, oh, yeah, SteamOS for my ass organ. Not so fun. 2 chairs.
Yeah, I didn't have any of those issues on the Fedora 2164, actually Fedora 22, 64-bit i7 6700K with 32 gigs of RAM, the 980 box of business at 4K. Yeah, it runs without any issues. 60 FPS. I mean, it could for like what this game is displaying. I'm surprised it's not higher, but let's not dock points for that. It's 4 chairs.
60K and 4K, that sounds pretty good to me. But yeah, on my Corora 21 64-bit powered box of AMD FX 8370E overclocked at 4.2 gigahertz and a GTX 970 Strix, it ran without an issue. I didn't have to edit any INI files, and I'm the one that's not running the 4K display on a separate X screen. I actually only have the 2 1080p screens running an NVIDIA TwinView. Yeah, basically. So, 4 chairs. No issues whatsoever.
All right, so that is 3 chairs mixed with working. Up next is the shinny and the sounds. Ven, was this graphically renowned, or I don't know what the other point is. Go.
Okay.
Do it. Say things.
It's going to be fucking brilliant. I mean, it doesn't look as good as $3.5 million. Let's just be honest with ourselves. Zing! It's actually got a fun little art style going on for itself. I mean, it's cel-shaded. It's very flat. What do they call that in the design world? Flat? I don't know. That's definitely a thing. It's well done. It's not janky and all that. I mean, the only janky part is like when you travel, as you're traveling between jungles, there's like 3 little dots running around. But even the encounters, they're illustrated. And some pseudo 3D type shit going on when you're traveling to the different cities to learn new skills and all that, and spending your points bucks. And, kind of like how it looked. You got to judge it for what it's trying to be, not what you think it should be. And what it's trying to pull off, I genuinely think it nailed it. Even the loading animation screen was clever because it had your 3 characters running towards the X. Kind of like that. The sound, it's not bad, but it's not needed. It's completely not needed because, 99.9% of the time you're reading walls of text, and on the occasional turn-based fight scene and all that business, it's like, no, I'm sad, and shit like that. Just put on some Slater. You'll be much happier with yourself. But it's not bad if you want to listen to it. I'm going to give that 3 chairs. I think it did a very solid job for what it set out to be.
Yeah, I mean, I like the art style. All the characters are unique. They're all wonderful little stereotypes of their various nationalities. And lots of nice little touches, like what Ben said, the loading screen is a bunch of people chasing an X on a map. It's really hard to screw up a game like this graphically. As long as your art style is solid and consistent, then you're not going to run into too many problems. I mean, sound-wise, it's a bit forgettable, but again, like Ben said, you're reading walls of text. You're not necessarily paying attention to the.
I mean, it's not voice acted, so.
Yeah, it's not voice acted at all. But yeah, like the animations are fun when you're in combat. People get happy, get sad. It's cute. I like it. 3 cheers.
Yeah, the sounds, they were not particularly compelling. The background music was kind of forgettable, and the very little amount of voice acting that we got was just like, ha-ha, ho-ho, heh-heh, aw, yeah. That was basically it.
Kill me.
Yeah. I had to.
And he tries.
When it comes to the shiny, I had to disable the Steam overlay, otherwise the combat scenes would be blurry. It's like if you took a screenshot of the game
Pedro,
and
you
went to
just drink
GIMP.
too much.
No. If you took a screenshot of the game
Pedro,
and
you
then
drink too much.
loaded it up on GIMP and applied the selective Gaussian blur filter a couple of times over, that's what the game looked like to me. So I sent the devs an email, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that happens with some Mac and Linux configurations. So just disable the Steam overlay, and it should go away." How are those two related? I don't fucking know, but they know about it, so it's an issue, and they still haven't fixed it. I like the art style in general. It's like Jordan already hinted at. Each character is its own stereotype, and you can generally just identify them by their shape without actually having to look at them or read the name that shows up on the screen. So, good on them for that. But still, it had some issues, so I can only give it 2 chairs.
All right,
2.
so that's 2 chairs for Shining and Sounds. Up next is Control. Then, did you click all the things?
That's basically your only option with this game is to click all the things. Now, one would assume, that's so simple an art user could do it. But you got to remember, I'm kind of forced to run this in a window, and that's going to be a factor. Because I'm running full screen, no matter if it's 1080p or 2160, it's just not having that, Brad. Also, known issue in the forums, unpinned, posted by a fucking developer. Let's hammer that home again. You want to move around the map, and if you're in a window, it doesn't capture your gerbil input. So, I got 3 screens, and it's all over the place. And got a middle click, use the scrolly wheel click, and I was like, okay, I can move like that. Can't fucking unclick, Brad. The only way to unclick from that is to right-click, and 9 times out of 13, that's going to cost you a fucking move. Because that's about the only time you're searching through the map, because I will get into that in the fun section about why you might want to do that while you're in battle. That's a huge thing. Because, if I could run it full screen, I wouldn't have this issue. But I'm forced to deal with this janky mess like that. Escape doesn't trust me. I tried 13 different ways to make that not happen. But it always happens. So, how you fuck up a clicky game? That's how you fuck up a clicky game, son. Be that a lesson, and be it 2 fucking mothering chairs.
Yeah, sometimes when you're trying to readjust some targeting or something, and you right-click, or if you make any sort of illegal move, sometimes the game will just be like, "Nope, you're not allowed to move your character again for this turn. Go fuck yourself." But beyond that, you click on things, you click on other things in relation to those things. And it works pretty well aside from that one issue, so we'll give it 3 chairs.
I honestly didn't run into any of those issues. I don't know why, but when you click on things, at least on my end, things react as though they were clicked on. And when I looked at the UI for the game, I was like, yeah, I wish this was on Android. And judging by, how the buttons are laid out and how big they are, and the general UI is laid out, I'd say the guys at Abbey Games, the guys and gals at Abbey Games, do too. So yeah, I really can't complain. I just wish it was on a different medium. So 4 chairs.
All right, so that's...
What is that, 3?
That's 3 whole chairs for Control.
Now, here's something before we get into that. Do you think maybe general consensus this will perform better with a Steam controller? Maybe in a big picture?
You know what? That is a good question. I think that is more a global issue with how point-and-click games in general interact with the Steam controller. But if it's just like a touchpad where you just tap to click, I don't see what the issue could possibly be. Right. But anyways... Up next is Fun Ven. Did you enjoy yourself? Did you have fun exploring deep crevices and all that stuff?
Well, I love roguelites and turn-based strategy.
Thank you, Pedro. We got the joke.
I'm just waiting for some lightning. No? All right. Better luck next time, bitch. So this is a 4X turn-based strategy. Choose your own adventure. The game ? He asked. In all fairness, the turn-based strategy fighting, that was so simple even a Vin could do it. Replayability, my ass organ. Outside of the character selection, it's the same shit, different day. I mean, the maps are like the same encounters. And trust me, I'm like 30 minutes out of completing the game. I put serious time into this. But, then again, I guess I'm not in tune with this particular style of game, but all three of my adventures seem the fucking same. The combat system is simple enough, consisting of a health wiener and what can only be described as a touchy-feely bar of tears. And just for fun, any power that you used could be deemed, I don't know what's the word, useful, requires a 4-turn cooldown. While I can see the logic in that, it's hella annoying when you burn an attack only to have the game go, surprise extra enemies, motherfuckers! Which it likes to do, and it'll get you squad wiped more often than not. Also, is there a way to disable "you have run out of supplies" screen of click twice to go away every move? That shot makes baby flying spaghetti monster cry and almost made Uncle Vin cry. It's like, there was no way out of that. But I guess at the end of the day, this comes across as a wall of text simulator with brief moments of turn-based strategy fighting with questionable replayability. I don't really know how to classify that, and it kind of bugs me, but I'll wrap that up in my final solution. Thoughts. Yes, Vin, use that word. It's not busted. It's playable. And 2 chairs.
I don't know, Ben. I think there's maybe some sort of place you can go to help you with your concentration. It'll help you find the proper words for things. But anyways, this reminds me of a board game a lot more than like a PC game. I could totally see like this being adapted into just like a tabletop version, and you really wouldn't lose all that much. I do like me some Hexcrawl though. I'm a big fan of that format. That's why I sunk 300 odd hours into FTL. And I mean, this is kind of the closest thing we're going to get to an adaptation of something to the tune of Isle of Dread. The combat system is interesting. You get your touchy-feely bar, and you have to sort of... It takes some getting used to, but once you get the hang of it, it's kind of neat to sort of, okay, I'm in this situation now, I need this specific benefit, so I need to fight in this way. Okay, now I can switch to like the full offensive mode and blah, blah, blah. And if you're not paying attention, you're going to screw yourself over, get really, really weakened, and then get squad wiped. The resource management bit is interesting. One thing is no matter what game I'm in, if there's an element of random chance, it will screw me over. Oh yeah, 92% success rate. All right, sweet, sure thing. Nope, fail. All right, 88% success rate. Fail. But that's not the game's fault. That's just my terrible dice luck. Once I started actually getting into the game, it finished. Like it is pitifully short, and the areas you can explore, yeah, the contents of them are randomized, but the areas themselves aren't. So you can always just apply the same strategy again and again and again and again with just some minor variation. It doesn't really reward all that much experimentation when it comes to the replays. I mean, I had fun while playing it. It's just it's kind of hard to go through it a second or third time after realizing that it's essentially going to be the same experience no matter which way you go. I'll give it 3 chairs because it is enjoyable, but for the price, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat as Jordan because I like it, but the dev Manuel, what is his name? Manuel Kersemakers, because he's from the Netherlands. So he actually pointed out in the email where he sent us the keys that this was a roguelite, and it's the kind of game that you're supposed to play through several times and make different choices and get different events and so on, so you would get a different experience each and every time you play the game. That's how a roguelite works. That's how Rogue Legacy and Bionic Dues and Dungeons of Dreadmore, that's how those kind of games really go with a very simple concept and still manage to stretch that out to 40, 30, however many hours you want to sink into it. It's similar to, say, FTL. It's the exact same concept. The combat's a bit different, granted, but The thing is, when I finished this game the first time through, I did all the 5 expeditions and I finished in first place. I beat Rivaleux, which is the main antagonist that you have to beat. I didn't feel like playing any more of it after that. I did start a new game, but I'm like, okay, these are the exact same places I've been to, and I've already been through them, and I've done everything I could in them. I don't really see the point. I felt like I had a very satisfactory experience and saw absolutely no reason to do it all again. That's bad for a roguelite, especially if people can finish that first way through in like under 2 hours, the same way I did. At that point, you leave yourself open to the quote-unquote refund. The Steam refunds that can only happen if you have less than 2 hours played of a game in the first 2 weeks. It's a very fun roguelite, but I can't give it 4 chairs if I'm satisfied with playing through once. So, like Jordan, I'm gonna have to give it 3 chairs.
All right, so that's 2 chairs for fun, and if we total all this stuff up, we get 2 chairs for the final score, which indicates a middle-of-the-road game. So, gentlemen, I think we'll leave it with final thoughts and move on to hate mail.
Well, a couple things. I don't like the touchy-feely bar. I'm sorry. I mean, it is almost... correct me if I'm right, it disencourages you from using violence, and I'm sorry. I mean, if violence doesn't work, you're simply not using enough of it. Seriously. Then we got to deal with the price. 19.99 wet stinky cashes, or 19.99 wet limey pounds. That's kind of steep for what this game is. I mean, it's good. It's well made. But then you're looking at a 2-on... go through and like the replayability, which isn't really there. I'm sorry, I've played it. I'm almost at the 2-hour point where I could beat it. And here's something I want to ask you, J-Man.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of felt that this, for me, was a more legitimate Dungeons and Dragons experience than Sword Coast Legends.
Yes!
It was.
I was actually thinking about this. Not exactly Dungeons and Dragons, maybe a game like Burning Wheel or something done in the Cypher system, that a game that actually encourages you to like role play and find nonviolent solutions to your problem.
As a person who's never played Dungeons and Dragons, don't you think this would be closer for me to understanding how the mechanics?
Well, I straight up compared it in the fun section to a classic D&D module. So yes.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because it's got a very compelling art style, as it were. Sounds a bit forgettable, but the art style is very good, and it's a roguelite. I like roguelikes and roguelite games very much.
Make love to your children.
But this one doesn't really do it for me. I mean, it did it the first time I played through those 5 first expeditions, and then I finished it and I got the achievements for finishing it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I don't really need to play anymore. I did start another campaign, but I got the exact same scenario, so no, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I guess at the end of the day, I mean, that kind of wraps us up for the Super Adventure Club, but take us out, Jay, baby.
Oh, I was just gonna say, at the end of the day, I think this game would have benefited a lot more if you didn't need 5 adventures, you needed like maybe 10 or 12 adventures to actually complete the game, and maybe sort of randomize the locations that you can go to so that you get a bit of a.
What about if you could just maintain your like upgrades and power ups and shit?
That's kind of hand in hand with the genre of if you start a new game, you lose everything.
All right.
But then you're right. Up next, we take a dump on Pedro's chest. It's gonna be fun. Tune in.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's a hate mail. And at this point, you have to know how to get in touch with us because I'm fucking done explaining it.
Well, you mean I just go to LinuxGameCast.com, but what if I want to give you hate mail and maybe I want to say some other things? Can I do it through hate mail? Is that all right?
You can. In fact, you should. If you fill out that contact form, or if you go to the About page, you'll see our individual email accounts described. You can send us some hate mail through that too, or on YouTube, or on Google Plus, or on Twitter, Facebook, maybe?
Grindr.
I don't know.
Whatever.
FetLife. It's all good.
But hey, someone actually got in touch with us this week, and the first one is from Squirrel Fish Frog.
If that is her real name.
Yeah, we'll have to, willing suspension of disbelief and all that.
Wait a minute. This is from that thing from like a week ago, right?
Yes, it is. We covered the first bit of this particular hate mail last week.
Well, listen, there's somebody that like watched our show for the first time and had some thoughts about it?
Maybe? Yes, he had some thoughts, and he said that, basically, it boiled down to, it's too big a show, and you should split it off into segments on YouTube so people can see what they want to see without having to wait to the whole show. And now, he or she says, I thought about it for a while. I knew the word podcast for a long time before I started listening to them, and that was because of YouTube. I discovered a really good one that was also dumped here. So if in the future you think about ways to attract new listeners, you might want to reconsider YouTube digests as opposed to dumps. So he's Canadian. By the way, there are lots of good podcasts, Aaron. You'd be amazed. I don't know who Aaron is, but he sounds like a really boring
I'm going to say guy. Aaron Plattner, the lead driver NVIDIA guy.
No, I'm not guessing it's not that one.
I'm going to say it is regardless. Damn it, Aaron, we loved you. But, I mean, Ben, you wrote your entire bit on that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a bit on that. First of all, I mean, if you're watching us on YouTube, yes, you don't know how many times I just want to put a bullet to my brain organ. Why do we have to do video? If we didn't do video, we would actually be profitable. We would make money. But not quite the case just yet. But with Patreon support, with your help, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, maybe we'll get there. But
give us money.
Yes. Hashtag cha-ching. If you're watching us on YouTube, that's awesome. We don't promote the YouTube because for us the YouTube is a backup video because we do have SD and HD and MP3 videos locally hosted that you can get anywhere, and there's a reason for that, Aaron. There's actually a reason for that, and we don't really trust the YouTubes. Billions of years ago in the future's past, I had to go through this insane vetting process in order to become a YouTube partner. And so it was like, oh, man, if you just sign up, you can become a... And that's how I know you're a young little critter, because it wasn't always like that. But I did get accepted into their advertisement program, and all was good for like 20 fucking seconds. Then they let everyone else in who had an account that was 15 days or older, cut revenue by 40 fucking %. And did I mention that they've kind of skull-fucked us? YouTube has skull-fucked us into a new system of, for RedTube, YouTube Red. I'm sorry. It's really easy to get that mixed up. But we have to agree to allow people to skip any advertisements on our site if they're a member of YouTube Red. We have no choice, no say-so in that. And there's like, few, that's why. And then it just kind of leads to my thing of, YouTube is kind of like reaching and grabbing and doing all that. I'm not going to put a whole ton in, because unless you're like cranking out like 2 million subscribers, you're not making any money on it. We make change on YouTube videos. Literally change. J-Man, do you got any thoughts on this?
I mean, YouTube does have a sort of predatory relationship with their content creators where they consistently screw over people who actually generate content for them, which generates revenue for them. So I understand why Ben's hesitant to, buy into the whole YouTube everything bit. I fully support him.
But we do understand as creators that it's people watch us there, and that's fun.
It's true. Also, one of our Patreon goals is, adding more content that could be more digest related than just full on hour and a half podcast. So there's that, Give us something we can
YouTube
something.
Fucks everyone over unless you're PewDiePie.
Pedro,
at which point
Pedro,
YouTube is sucking your dick.
Give us some suggestions. Should we cut the show up? Should we split it up? Because you got to understand, I mean, people join in, the beautiful party people join in to watch the 4-hour train wreck, and we do condense it to 1 hour. Should we cut it up further because squirrel generation?
When it comes to
we should fast forward it so we all have chipmunk voices.
When it comes to the YouTube dump, we're already condensing it a hell of a lot. So, yeah, if you want the full experience, go on Twitch, watch the VODs, or, join us live, like you should, every single Saturday at around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 2:30 a.m. GMT.
Space Portugal. Now we need to stop.
Yeah.
Stop! This is from Pete Wallace. And we one of the things we complained about in the Alien Isolation review last week was the fact that you can't skip the 30 seconds of intro videos. And this guy is nice enough to say, these are the files you need to remove, rename, whatever, to, get past them. No exceptions. So, good stuff. You need
confirm.
CA, Feral Ident, and Fox Ident, and yeah.
Yeah, P-Man, you tried this out?
I did.
Is it legit?
It's confirmed. If you rename those files or delete them, well, you probably shouldn't delete them, but yeah. If you just rename them, it'll work. When you start the game, it'll skip those intros. It's like 19 seconds shaved off of your Alien Isolation boot times.
Well, I mean, the game loads in like 4 seconds, so...
Yeah, it doesn't take all that long to load. It's just a freaking unskippable intro movies that are
this
kind of
will
annoying.
fix it for you, and ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, will be in our show notes so you can get some copy pasta. Don't even have to worry about the screenshot goodness, but the price of that might just be too damn high, son.
Oh, it's too damn high.
All right, so this is from Tim the Enchanter, and he's talking about, I'm always glad when you review a game and find that it performs well, but you also run real gaming rigs. If it doesn't perform well on these PCs, things will be worse if you're on integrated graphics like my AMD desktop APU or Intel graphics. I just want to play a little casual game from time to time, maybe a little hipster pixel platformer or puzzler. But even games with simple graphics that look like a mobile game have rather high requirements. Game developers should care more about performance and efficiency. With Steam boxes coming up trailer, there'll be a lot more low-budget systems with IGPs. This is also an issue on the Windows OS, or some people still use, but it's still important. Do you think Vulcan will improve the situation? Are there other good-looking games that run well on IGPs? Am I being too negative? I especially despise your weekly Nightmare Fuel because of the consistency, humor, and the driver news. Signed, Loved. Well,
we
so
interestingly, you too, Tim.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Interestingly enough, Flibbit has written a wonderful blog post about how you can actually get some interesting performance gains when you're on an IGP due to the reduction of trivial MCP operations. Just removes a ton of overhead. But you do raise a valid point. A lot of these games that should have much lower system requirements than they have are required GTX 950 with 8 gigs of RAM and a dual-core processor, when really, if you produced optimized code or even paid a little bit of attention to performance, you could probably knock that down to about 50% of your requirements. But it's part of the
optimization.
It's part of the just ship it culture, though. You see this a lot in games today. Oh, it barely Arkham Knight. Oh, it runs on PC. You can play the game, barely ship it. It's good. And you need 12 gigs of RAM. Who cares? Everyone has 12 gigs of RAM, right, guys? Yes?
That's the thing. The key word there is optimization. And we've seen how much devs can cock up basic optimization of a game. We mentioned this in between segments with Company of Heroes. You get the Company of Heroes port, which runs like ass, no matter on which CPU.
It runs
GPU.
better on a 5-year-old CPU than my i7. What?
It doesn't matter what CPU or GPU you have. That game is probably going to run like ass. But then, ported by the exact same people, on the other end of the spectrum, you have Alien Isolation, which runs amazingly well on whether it's an AMD processor or an Intel processor. I mean, to give you an example, that was the example, is Feral themselves have proven how much optimization kind of gets you. But to answer your other questions as to which games you can play on integrated graphics, on my work calculator, which has an Intel 4030U and an Intel HD 4400, I can run a bunch of games. It's just those that require OpenGL 4 point something that don't even start, but that's because Mesa doesn't support OpenGL 4 point something on anything other than
if you have a recent cut of Mesa and you're running an AMD APU, you can still run a lot of games that require OpenGL 4. You're just going to be missing some graphical features.
You can run a lot of the business. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But one of the questions in the hate mail organ was
Vulcan.
Vulcan. And we got to look at that this week. NVIDIA has released the first step towards, Vulcan implementation in their driver stack, which it's NVIDIA. Next week, it'll be on the Linux driver. And that's going to be a brilliant sauce because that is truly a cross-platform API. Outside of Windows Phone and Xbox, and maybe Windows. But there's also another thing. When you talk about optimization, this is something that I kind of wanted to address, but the website kind of noped, is when it comes to optimization, because we do need to talk about the 500-foot cocaine Voltron in the room, is Steam refunds. Brilliant for consumers. Developers hate it. Well, not all developers. The developers that are used to the concept of ship now, maybe patch later, maybe fix, terrifies the shit out of them. I mean, the first AAA Warner Brothers is like, oh shit, that's a thing? What? Oh, we got to pull the game up. Why do we have to do that? We've been shipping shit for years and maybe fixing it. And I'm like, everyone's returning it, sir. So goddamn them. That could have a negative effect, and I think we're kind of almost seeing that shift of like, well, if we focus on the console ports because you can't return a console game, ha ha ha. I mean, is there any validity to my line of thinking? Do you think that might be in play?
I do agree with you. I do agree with you. But bringing up Vulcan, there's one point I want to bring up.
Okay.
Is that Vulcan requires a lot of optimization in the application end because you're removing all the driver overhead. All the stuff that the driver would be doing for you normally now gets moved to your application. So
it's going to be new learning. Correctly, yes.
Yeah. If you do not code this shit correctly, because this is what you wanted. This is console style to the metal programming, which means that if you don't optimize, it's gonna run like ass, Brad. It's just gonna run like shit. You can't help that. It is the nature of the beast. So hopefully we're gonna see some devs focus more on optimization now that Vulcan is a thing. And again, with Vulcan, you only have to write the code path once, and then it runs pretty much on everything. It's not like you have to split your work between DirectX and OpenGL and Metal and Mantle Voodoo and Glide and whatever the hell you have.
If you're someone like Bethesda who keeps reusing the exact same engine for each and every single one of their games, even though they claim it's not, but come on, at this point.
Gamebryo!
Yeah, so if you have the one engine that you're sticking to, you only have to write that Vulcan code once. You can make all those improvements from there on in, and they will work, and they will have considerably much better performance than either OpenGL or DirectX 11 or whatever it is.
Tim, one thing I want to say, look forward to Vulcan, even with your APU. Casual gaming and stuff like that is going to be night and day. And you got to remember that Vulcan was derived from AMD's Mantle. Mm-hmm. So, chances are 9 out of 13 times, it's probably going to end up being awesome sauce.
It is AMD we're talking about, though, so...
And on that bombshell, let's cue the music, because you can always find me. I'm at VinStone on the Twitter nets, plus VinStone. This Nightmare Fuel is broadcast live around 9:30 EDT. Moontime, just time Athens, Georgia.
Eastern big time.
Oh, you just want the D, baby.
I do. You can find me clamoring for the D on Twitter at The Burning Pool or on Google Plus Jordan Svung. And there is the D himself.
He's the P. A.K.A. Mr. Plagiarismo. A.K.A. that guy that keeps butchering the English language every single Saturday night. God damn. You can find me at Unaccounted For on Twitter or Plus with Mateus on Google+.
Well, yeah, I guess the one thing we've learned this evening is, did we ever learn anything?
No, we why do you think we do this? To educate ourselves? You're smoking drugs, man.
I mean, I guess if...
I think we learned something.
I actually think we've learned that since we can't do something well, we might as well have fun doing something bad, yeah?
Or just ship it.
Or you just can't escape the Brad.
You mean the, Steve?
Tom,
Steve.
Steve Tom.
Tom.
Brad.
All hell Brad with a lisp.
Man. Come on, man.
Brad.
Just stop.
5 dudes.